Good morning everyone. Today we are going to discuss about trigeminal nerve. Before that, if you like our video, then subscribe and share. And if you have any query regarding trigeminal nerve, you are free to ask from us. So let's start with trigeminal nerve. Trigeminal nerve is the fifth cranial nerve. We have 12 pair of cranial nerves. First of all, olfactory, optic, oculomotor, trochlear, then comes our trigeminal. Then abduction, facial, vestibulocochlear, then glossopharyngeal, Baker's, cranial accessory, and last of all, hypoglossal nerve. Trigeminal nerve is the largest mixed cranial nerve. Mixed, what do you mean by mixed? Mixed mean trigeminal nerve have both sensory and motor fibers. Sensory means sensations, that is, sensory fibers carry the sensory impulses from the body part to the brain, and motor means motor fibers carry the response from brain to the body. So, in case of trigeminal nerve has general somatic afferent fibers. General somatic afferent fibers are of two types, exteroceptive impulses and as well as proprioceptive impulses. And motor fibers in trigeminal nerve are special visceral efferent fibers. So, exteroceptive impulses in sensory fibers of trigeminal nerve are mostly impulses of touch, pain and thermal senses. And these impulses are transmitted from skin of face and forehead, mucous membrane of nasal cavity, oral cavity, nasal sinus and floor of the mouth, teeth, anterior two-thirds of tongue and extensive portion of the dura. Second, proprioceptive impulses. These are the impulses of deep pressure and kinesis. These impulses conveyed from teeth, periodontium, hard palate, TMJ and stretch receptors in the muscles of mastication. Then special visceral efferent fibers. These fibers are motor fibers and these innervate muscles of mastication, tensor tympani, tensor belli peltae muscle, facial muscles and muscles of eye. Trigeminal nerve attached to the pons by means of two roots. Small one root is motor root, that is portio minor, and large is sensory root, that is portio major. Sensory root. Fibers of sensory root arise from the semilunar ganglia. So guys, I am going to tell about semilunar ganglia. Semilunar ganglia are the unipolar neurons. These arise from the neural crest cells and it's a crescent shaped ganglia present at the apex of the petrous part of the temporal bone in Meckel cave. So this semilunar ganglia has two processes. One is peripheral processes and the other one is central processes. So in this diagram we are showing three peripheral processes, V1, V2 and V3. These peripheral processes respectively known as V1 as ophthalmic, V2 maxillary and V3 mandibular. These three are sensory peripheral processes. Then comes central process. Central process is the sensory root, which take the fibers from these peripheral processes to the brain stem. Then we have, this is further pathway I am showing. In this pathway I am going to show, first of all, as I told you, the sensations coming from the all these three peripheral processes, they enter the brain stem in various nuclei. Now how can we decide which sensation enter the which nuclei? For that we have main sensory nucleus, that is main sensory nucleus, then we have spinal nucleus that is caudal to the main sensory nucleus. Then we have mesencephalic nucleus and motor nucleus. Motor nucleus is related to motor root and that is related to motor fibers. But our sensory fibers have three nuclei in relation. First of all, upper main sensory nucleus, then spinal nucleus caudal to main sensory nucleus, and third one is mesencephalic nucleus, which is in the midbrain. So I am explaining how fibers run. First of all, we have sensation of touch, tactile discrimination and basic position. These sensations reach in the semilunar ganglia by means of peripheral process from the face or mucous membrane of nasal cavities, maxillary sinuses and other sinuses, or teeth, periodontal ligaments. So the sensations of touch, tactile discrimination and basic position reach the semilunar ganglia by these peripheral processes. Then they, without synapsing, no synapse occur in semilunar ganglia. These are the first order neurons. They ascend in the main sensory nucleus and they make the ascending fibers. So in the main sensory nucleus, first synapse occur and from there second order neurons arise which ascend to the thalamus via medial lemniscus crossing to the opposite side, and these are the second order neurons, and third and second synapse occur in the thalamus. From there third order neurons rise and they ascend to the cerebral cortex. Similar way, the sensations of pain and temperature, they also enter the semilunar ganglia by means of the peripheral processes, but instead of going to the main sensory nucleus, they descend to spinal nucleus and they are the descending fibers. In spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve, in spinal nucleus of trigeminal nerve, synapse occur and second order neurons arises, and just like previous fibers, they also ascend to thalamus and on the opposite side via medial lemniscus, and synapse occur there, and from there third order neurons arises which reach the cerebral cortex. The fibers which are the light touch, tactile discrimination or basic position fibers which enter into the main sensory nucleus, and via that they enter the thalamus, and from thalamus they enter the cerebral cortex. That tract is dorsal trigeminothalamic tract, and from the spinal nucleus which fibers enter the thalamus, that are the ventral trigeminothalamic tract. So we can say that light touch, tactile discrimination, basic position, they form the dorsal tract, and pain or temperature sensation, they form the ventral tract. Now we have proprioception fibers also. These fibers run in the mandibular division, peripheral mandibular division, and reach the ganglia. From the trigeminal ganglia or semilunar ganglia, these fibers ascend to the mesencephalic nucleus in the midbrain, but no synapse occur here. Then these fibers pass from mesencephalic nucleus to relay in the main sensory nucleus, and synapse occur in this nucleus, and from here second order neurons rises and they form the dorsal trigeminothalamic tract. Same, they enter the thalamus and then to the cerebral cortex, and some of these fibers, some fibers from main sensory nucleus after synapsing, they instead of ascending to thalamus, they enter the emboliform nuclei of cerebellum, they or dentate nuclei of cerebellum. They form the trigeminocerebellar tract and they also control the proprioception. So proprioceptive fibers taking impulses mostly teeth, TMJ, hard palate, or periodontium or stretch receptors of masticatory muscles. So we can see biting which forces occur that are due to these proprioceptive movements. So now comes to the motor root. Motor root arise from the motor nucleus, which is medial to the sensory nucleus, upper main sensory nucleus, and these fibers carry the motor fibers, and these fibers run along the run below the semilunar ganglia and along the mandibular division of the semilunar ganglia, and they run side by side without joining, and they enter the foramen ovale. After exiting from the foramen ovale, the motor fibers of motor root join with the mandibular division of trigeminal ganglia, and they form a single trunk. From that single trunk, some branches arises, just like nerve spinosus or nerve to medial pterygoid. Nerve to medial pterygoid also supply tensor tympani or tensor palati. Then that single trunk divide into two divisions, anterior division and posterior division. Anterior division further gives branches to muscles of mastications, facial muscles, and posterior divisions give auriculotemporal, inferior alveolar nerve, lingual nerve, and nerve to mylohyoid. So this is all about the introduction of a basic introduction of trigeminal nerve, and here we are showing how mechanoreceptors take the sensory impulses from peripheral divisions, enter the main sensory nucleus. First synapse occur here, second order neurons arises which cross to opposite side, ascend to thalamus, and from thalamus then third order neurons arises that ascend to cerebral cortex, and they make dorsal trigeminal tract. And here we are showing the pain fibers or temperature fibers. They from the peripheral division they enter the spinal nucleus. First synapse occur here, then second order neuron arises which cross to opposite side and ascend to the thalamus by ventral trigeminal tract, and from thalamus third order neurons arises which reach the cerebral cortex. Here the mesocephalic proprioception fibers which enter the mesocephalic nucleus, but without synapsing they pass the mesocephalic nucleus to reach the upper sensory nucleus, and second order neurons arise from here, enter the thalamus by means of dorsal trigeminal tract, and then again ascend to cerebellum or cerebral cortex, or some fibers ascend to cerebellum, and that means the trigeminal tract. Here is showing three divisions: ophthalmic, maxillary, and mandibular. So here is the main nucleus positions. So we have first main sensory nucleus of trigeminal nerve, that is in the upper pons. Then its caudal extension is minor nucleus that extend to the second cervical vertebra, and third is mesocephalic nucleus that is in the midbrain. So this is just an introduction of trigeminal nerve. If you guys like my video, then like, share, and subscribe also, and we will come after few days with our first division, ophthalmic division, how ophthalmic divisions run, which areas supplied by ophthalmic divisions, and what are their branches, mostly branches of ophthalmic divisions. So, okay, this is all about introduction of trigeminal nerve. Thank you.